You have found yourself on another episode of Locked On Bulls. On today's episode, me and Pat are going to discuss AK being focused on moving Zach LaVine before taking calls on any other players. But with that said, Alex Caruso and Andre Drummond are also getting calls. We're going to talk about that. And the Chicago Bulls reportedly will want Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves back in a potential Zach LaVine trade. We're going to get into all that and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. That's Pat the Designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze and host of the Chicago Bears podcast over at ESPN 1000. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls and Chicago Bears Central. Pat, man, it's all trade episode, basically. It's as we get closer and closer to this trade actually happening, which we're so probably about a month and a half away on. We're getting more and more news, kind of hearing what AK's kind of mindset is. And yesterday came out via Casey Johnson that AK right now is telling teams that are calling about any other players, we should talk about some of those players here coming up, but he's telling them that he wants to wait until see what the roster looks like after the Zach LaVine trade before making decisions on any other player. Now, I initially took that as, hey, it makes sense. You're going to probably get a lot of assets back for it, and you probably want to see what you get back, and that would inform what you do with the rest of your roster. Yeah. But, Pat, how you feeling about that when you hear it?
I mean, it doesn't surprise me, right? Like, that's the one trade, and I'm going to be honest with you. It's like I said earlier, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Chicago Bulls actually started to see some success after a Zach LaVine trade went down. Why? Because it seems like, right, like, people genuinely like Zach, and they're upset that he doesn't want to be there. I think that is bringing up a part of the reason why we're seeing such poor play from everybody else in the building. I don't think that it's the only reason, but I do think that it's a part of the reason. And I think that, listen, why would I assume anything different about AK that he's not going to want to go out and get pieces that allow him to still compete for something this season? Excuse me. I know that everyone thinks that this is going to be the move that finally puts the Bulls into a full tank.
Thank you.
No.
I put that out today on Chicago. I put that out today on Chicago Bulls Central. I think everybody has now heard the Zach LaVine trade, and they've now conflated that with their hope that this team goes full rebuild and blows it all up. I need everybody to understand that there is a world, and probably the most likely scenario is that they add whatever assets they get back, and we'll talk about that in the last segment of today, to what they have, and they just keep it pushing. And Bulls fans are going to go crazy if that. Some small vocal part of the community, but some are going to go crazy if that happens.
Well, I think I would say more, right? Because you're having a conversation on basically you're trading away your biggest assets, but you're not trying to get top picks in the draft. Now, I at the end of the season, of course, we're gonna hype some people up, but there's really no Cooper Flag in this draft, right? Like there's nobody that I'm looking at and I'm like, oh man, this might be the next guy to push you over the top. I'm sure there's somebody in the draft that should, but we'll see what that ends up being. But at the end of the day, we just know how AK is. We know what kind of team he wants to put on the floor. He does not want to put a tanking basketball team on the floor, which, listen, I don't disagree with. I think in the long run, right, maybe Wemby's going to be this elite player that's going to be great, but is he going to be that for the Spurs? Because how it's starting off right now, it don't look good. He looks great.
He looks great, but they got to take Jeremy Sohan out of the point guard. He makes such bad decisions at the point guard position. Why is Trey Jones just not their point guard? I don't understand it at all.
I'm so confused. I'm like, what's Pop on with this?
People talk about
his defense is good. Jeremy Sohan's defense is good.
His defense is good, but people talk about the basketball IQ of Zach LaVine. Jeremy Sohan, I know he's a lot younger, but only second year in the league, but he makes some decisions offensively down the stretch of games. You're like, you're an idiot. I'm sorry, but I know that's not what we're here to talk about.
Well, it's just right. Like that is the long-term answer for them. That's not the right now answer. And I always say tanking doesn't end up winning you championships. Usually getting guys together, building a team, building a veteran team. Like, hey, when the Warriors got Steph, they just sucked. When they got Clay, they just sucked. They were trying. Monte Ellis was still in the building. They just sucked. Yeah, I mean, so it's like, I like the fact that we're keeping a competitive mindset on the team, but on the flip side of that, I think there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be upset about it because you're trading away all your best assets and you're not going for the top pick in the draft. And really, at the end of the day, we're going to get 7. We know that's how this goes. But I love I like that AK is focused on moving Zach LaVine first, because then it gives you an opportunity to say, okay, now we're adding pieces in. Maybe there's some kind of jolt that we get from this that pushes these young guys to do more. At this point, this season, 100% now, and especially with the possibility tonight. I mean, I don't know if you saw the latest update, but LaVine, DeMar, and AC all questionable to go, right? Like, if they're not going, you're playing young boys tonight. What is Kobe White? What is Patrick Williams going to do? Julian Phillips going to have to get some minutes, I would assume, right? Like, there's got it. People have to play. So that's pretty much what I feel like the rest of this beginning of the season is going to be. And we're going to know really quick what this team is moving forward with these young guys.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's going to add clarity. And I think that people need to also realize is that the Bulls suck. So, like, at this point right now, there's enough to say, hey, just keep it going with what you have. And we're going to get that. We're going to get a top 5 pick probably this year. Like, unless they just, if you never know, like, depending on what they get back from Zach, if it's the right mix of players or whatnot, you know, maybe that. I don't think it changes the future as far as this season being a terrible season, but it may make that clarity. You may get pieces that fit a little bit more better, and to where you're playing a more competent brand of basketball. And then at that point, you can go into evaluation mode. And then maybe in the offseason, maybe next trade deadline is where you start seeing maybe even more pieces moved on. But anybody thinking that just because they're moving Zach means that we're going full rebuild, y'all got to wake up, because I can tell you what, that's unlikely to happen.
Yeah, it's. I think at this point now, right, you're just trying to find the best deal too, right? Like you're looking around. The Rui deal with Reeves, we'll talk about that. But like, what teams are going to offer you the best deal? What is the real opportunity that the Bulls have with Zach LaVine? That's the part I think why AK is so focused on Zach, because listen, I don't think that this just smoke with the Charlotte Hornets. I think the Hornets realize who they are. Now, it may be very much hindered now with LaMelo going down, right? I mean, listen, them ball boys and injuries are synonymous at this point, right? Like,
I mean,
it's tough. The what did Mark Jones say last night? The lower extremities are not as tough. Yeah, I mean, like, Mark Jones was tweaking last night on that Clipper game. Did you see any of that?
That Clipper game,
bro, that man was wild.
Hey, listen, I know you said that you would love to live call a game with having Grady Dick on the Chicago Bulls. That man,
bro, he couldn't be stopped, bro. He couldn't be stopped.
You gotta think at some point he realized what he was doing. He's like, yeah, you know what? We're just gonna double down on it.
Fam, I didn't know if he was like workshopping new like calls. Like, I've never heard these things, bro. That man was sitting there.
The way he gripped it with his hands and slid it in. It was like, wait a second, what are we doing here, bro?
Fam, when he was dog, he said Kawhi Leonard coming to the hole with those large appendages and slamming it through. What? Oh, what are you talking about? And then when he was talking about Mike Brown, he said, what he said? He's busted, disgusted, and not to be trusted. First off, did he, like, are the first two telling me that he had like that post, you know what, clarity? Like, was that what that was?
That's what that sounds like.
He was busted and then he was just disgusted in himself. And why can't we trust him? He's a pretty good head coach. If y'all don't know what we're talking about, man, go on my Twitter. I recorded 2 videos last night of just Mark Jones wilding on the live call, bro. I mean, like,
he was tripping, bro. That was crazy.
That was one of the greatest things ever, bro. He busted, disgusted, and not to be trusted. What?
That's wild,
bro. People
bro.
can hear you, brother.
Before we go on this segment, though, I do want to ask you, just because it's a little conversation going around Bulls social media, do you think that do the Bulls owe anything to Zach LaVine to trade him to preferred destination, or do you? Because my mindset is you got to get the best deal for your team at this point. What do you feel on that?
I think you try to, depending on the package.
Okay,
trade package.
I like how you clarify.
Yeah, you got to. That was Somebody, did you see the tweet? Somebody sent the tweet and was like, "Y'all have ruined the word package for me."
Yes, absolutely.
Watch the door, brother. Watch the door. But no, I just I think you try to trade him. You call the teams that he prefers to go to first, but at the end of the day, you move them to wherever the best team is. And listen, if Bulls fans feel bad about that, feel like that's disrespectful, that's why people don't want to come here. Listen, Damian Lillard went to Milwaukee when he wanted to go to Miami and literally said, I'm not going anywhere else but Miami. Damian Lillard is a 9 times better player than Zach LaVine will ever be.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
If Dame didn't get the pick where he wanted to go, nobody gets the pick where they want to go.
But up next, got to talk to you guys about one of our sponsors, and that is Gametime. You shouldn't have to worry about when you're buying tickets to your next event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. By the way, listen, that Wu-Tang Nas concert, go get your tickets on Gametime. Go get your tickets on Gametime for that.
Yeah,
that's all I'm going to say on that one.
That's nasty.
Hey, listen.
King's Disease 3 was disgusting.
All the whole King's Disease series. Yeah. But with that said, Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seats before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal without the hidden fees. Buy tickets in 2 seconds just with 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Brody. So apparently some of those players that AK is getting calls on that right now he's turning down until he knows what's going on with the Zach LaVine trade are Alex Caruso and Andre Drummond. I think this makes a lot of sense for those 2 players for a few different reasons. One, they both have easily matched contracts. Yeah. Andre Drummond's on slightly over the vet minimum. Alex Caruso is on a little over $9 million contract. That's really easy for most teams around the NBA to match. On top of that, these are 2 guys that I would say really fit on just about any roster in the NBA. How you feeling, Pat?
They ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, not anytime soon.
I really don't believe that they're going anywhere. I think that there are certain players on your team that even if you're going all young, you don't want to go all young, right? That all young mindset rarely works. Heck, the Houston Rockets couldn't start winning until they got a veteran head coach in there and freaking, Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks. And I don't even think they're the end-all be-all, but the impact they've had on that Rockets team is undeniable. You've seen them go out. Listen, they're only 8-8, but it feels like they're undefeated based off where they were last year, right?
Yeah.
Good Lord. I'm dying a little bit this morning. But at the end of the day, I think that Alex Caruso and Andre Drummond are 2 guys that are culture setters for the culture that AK wants in the building. Maybe you move on from Drum. I don't think there's any scenario where the Bulls trade away Caruso. He's on a great deal, unless Alex Caruso comes to them and says, you know what, I'm not going to resign here.
Here's the thing I think on Alex Caruso, not to say that the Bulls won't move him, but I don't think Alex Caruso's value is always going to be high because of what and who he is. Yeah. So if the Bulls do want to see, hey, let's see how after this LaVine trade goes down, then whatever we do have planned in the offseason, see how Caruso fits into that. Then if that doesn't work, we can always move him next year at the trade deadline, and they're probably going to get just as much. Yeah, he won't have any years left on his contract at that point. But listen, there's always going to be teams that are interested in Alex. You're never going to have a shortened market. As long as he stays healthy, you're always going to have a market for Alex Caruso.
Well, and I think the thing is too, right? Like Alex Caruso is the type of player, he's the only one that exudes Chicago. Not even from here. He's we got guys from the team on the team. And he's the only one that exudes that Chicago mentality, that mindset that I guess Drum too, right? Like that hard hat and lunch pail mindset. Those are players that to me you want to have in your future. Yes, it's not something where you feel like you're competitive right now, but you know how basketball is. You get one player in the building, and all of a sudden you're competitive again, right? You just got to figure out who that player's gonna be. And I think, listen, tonight is gonna be an interesting test. We're seeing a more aggressive people. This is if remember last year when we were like, man, if he ain't aggressive tonight, he ain't gonna be aggressive. Talking about P. Will, right?
Yeah.
We've seen a much more aggressive P. Will, and he's had to give away shots. I actually want to see if tonight, if these guys don't play, which I think now any tweak, any injury is going to be, okay, sit down. We want to see what we got here anyway. You're going to see the Bulls try and come out and say, all right, P. Will, here's 25 shots. Go. You got the availability for 25 shots. How many of them you going to use tonight?
Yeah.
So I think that they're trying to figure out what they have in these young guys and then go out there with a Caruso, with the Drummond, and move forward. If you feel like you have nothing in the young guys, maybe then I see Caruso and Drum end up getting moved this season. Like if AK comes out of, at the halfway point of this season and goes, hey, Patrick Williams is a bust, which I've been telling y'all for, I don't know, year and a half now. But, hey, Pat Will's a bust. I missed on that pick. Should have took Halliburton. Should have took Devin Vassell. Should have took, a myriad of other players. We have to reset this thing and get a top pick again. Like, then I guess it makes sense. But if he's not going to do that, or if he doesn't feel like that's the case, I don't see him moving off of Caruso. Maybe Drummond, but even Drummond's a tough piece to replicate. A guy that I know I can stick out there and he's going to give me 10 rebounds.
Yeah.
Like, that's a tough piece to replicate.
But I think it really depends on like me and you both are under the mindset from what we've seen, from what's been said, from what we've been told, that they are want to compete to some level. But I do think this is that Drum, let's say at the trade deadline, a team, for example, we've already seen what Steven Adams is out for the season, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep.
If a team is like, hey, we have a spot, we need Drummond, we'll send you 2 firsts, or we'll send you a top 25 protected first round pick. I think you may have to take that at that point in time. But I don't think that that's
you get 2 firsts for Drummond. Like,
I said 2 seconds for Drummond. I meant 2 seconds. Did I say
I was
2
about
firsts?
to say you definitely said 2 firsts.
Oh, my bad. 2 seconds or a heavily protected first round pick. That's what I meant to say.
I was about to say, is it
2000 first for Drummond? You say, yeah, we'll gift wrap him right now. Don't worry about it.
Andre, ain't this your pillow, Andre? Yep. Andre, here's your water, Andre. Don't leave that on the way out. Yep, you keep that going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all should have seen my face, bro. I was just like, 2 firsts. Where's he going with this? Like, it's 2009. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Like, I don't know, 2 seconds for Drummond. I agree with you with the logic of it. And I agree with most fans in the logic of trading these guys away. But I also can't just use logic and not understand who the GM is.
Yeah.
I know what AK wants to do. I know how AK wants to build this team. I know what AK wants to put together. That probably is going to lead to AK not trading these guys away because they're guys that set the tone. And guess what? You do need culture setters. You do need tone setters. You know what we would have loved to have on this team at any point during all of this tenure? Culture setters.
Yeah.
Right? Like we would have loved to have guys who I can count on to go out there on a consistent basis to say, hey, stop screwing up. Why are you playing like this? Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis on this team would have been great. Plus, we'd actually had a power forward.
Yeah.
Like, that would have changed to me so much about the trajectory of where this team ended up. But you didn't have that. Now, the argument for that is Caruso and Drum been here for a good amount of time, and ain't nothing changed. So, I mean, I can see both sides of the coin on it.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. And like we said with most things, it really depends on that Zach LaVine trade and what direction they take after that. Yeah. And so, like I said, Drum, he doesn't have a year on his contract left after that. He hits free agency. So maybe by the deadline, you do have to make a decision there or something. But Caruso, I completely see a world in which they kick that can down the road and they just say, hey, there's going to be a marker for him in the offseason. There's going to be a marker for him next year at the trade deadline. Let's try to build some culture here. And then if we realize we're going to a different direction, that value is always going to be out there for Caruso.
Yeah, that is a guarantee. AC is one of those commodities where no matter what you do, you're going to be able to get value out of it.
Yeah.
But hey, we got some interesting value maybe coming back if the Bulls were to do a deal with the Lakers. So we're going to talk about that coming up. But first, we got to tell you guys about FanDuel. Why? Because FanDuel is here with the $150 in bonus bets. We've been telling you guys about this for a while. And as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 back in bonus bets with any $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. Y'all already know, man. Every time I give y'all one of these weird, let's see what they got today. They got a popular same game parlay every time you get on here. Oh, for the Cowboys and the Seahawks tonight. I got to set my fantasy lineup. Dallas Cowboys -8.5. Tony Pollard anytime touchdown. Over 47.5 total match points. CD Lamb anytime touchdown. $10 can win you $58 over on FanDuel. Get in tune with them right now. App is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked on to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
All right, Pat. Last topic of the day. When it comes down to it, Zach LaVine's being traded, and we are getting more and more details of kind of what the Bulls may want. So reported yesterday was that the Bulls, in a potential trade for Zach LaVine to send him to the Lakers, they want Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves kind of at the baseline. Now that, I looked it up, that gets you close to Zach LaVine's salary. There's still roughly about $6 million you'd have to fill in that, which could be Jalen Hood Schifino, which we've already heard that the Lakers may be willing to trade in that type of move. But what do you think about the Bulls if he is moved to Lakers? Not necessarily saying that that's just their focus is those two players, but in that type of deal, that's the two players that they'd want the most from the Lakers. How you feel about that?
That backcourt, mad Caucasian.
You still got Kobe White.
You gonna run a Caruso and Reeves lineup at least once, brother. That's gonna be an elite defensive lineup. Together. That's gonna be an elite defensive lineup right there, and Reeves can score. Hey, what if it hit too? What if it's like all of a sudden they actually hooping? I'd be interested in it. I mean, listen, like if you're telling me Rui Reeves, which is pretty much the deal that we had heard before, and Lakers fans were like, why would they give up this deal?
Yeah.
I'm still kind of on why would they give up this deal, but at the end of the day, if you want Zach LaVine, that's a major piece. You're going to bat with a big three versus having the Rui and the Reeves and different things like that. And I mean, listen, the bench depth is what it is at this point. I think that would be the main reason where you would maybe be a little bit more cautious on it. But to me, that would be a win for AK. I think that it would be a marginal win for the Lakers. And Zach LaVine would get to go compete as a Laker, but I wouldn't be mad at the deal if it were to get done. That's one where I asked where are we going to get our power forward from, and wasn't Rui also taken in the Patrick Williams draft?
Was he in the Patrick Williams? I honestly
feel like Rui was in the Patrick Williams draft. Now he went much later, but. Probably, like I wouldn't have taken Rui at 4 either, but just another player that seems to have 2019. That's P. Will, right?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah, that's P. Will.
He wasn't taking that much farther after Pat either. That was the year before Pat. He was in the Zion Williamson draft.
Yeah, okay.
He was in the same draft as Kobe White. So there you go on that one.
Okay, that's kind of the same dude. Yeah, same production wise for their careers at this point. But no, I definitely I look at that as you get your power forward, you get a nice guard piece in there who can play the forward. You know what kind of mindset he comes in with, very similar to an Alex Caruso. It would be very interesting to me if like the Lakers traded us both Alex Caruso and Austin Reeves when they miss Alex Caruso so much after they traded him to us, and I think they would feel the same way about Reeves. But all right, yeah, I mean, like, cool. It is what it is to me, and I'd love to see the deal get done.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely see that. At the end of the day, I think like that is it a perfect deal? No. And for anybody who's thinking the Bulls are going to get 1 for 1, you're not going to get that. But I mean, I like the pieces. Like, don't get me wrong. And then at that point, you're basically spreading Zach LaVine's contract over 2 different players, potentially 3 depending on what you get back. I still think that's. I don't know if that's what the Lakers would go with. Like, as much as I'm a Chicago Bulls
I'm
fan,
more confused on the Lakers side.
You know, we really got to we do try to look at trades from both sides. To me, that's giving up 2 players that are both 25 years old.
Yeah,
Austin Reeves only his 3rd year in the league. The ceiling is still high on him. But I mean,
with a struggling bench.
Yeah, that too.
Like, It's not like the Lakers have this wealth of depth. I know they went and picked up 1 million people, but bro, like Cam Reddish is getting 20 minutes and putting up no points. Austin Reeves is okay. I mean, Shafino played his best game the other day, but it was versus the Pistons. But I mean, like Jackson Hayes getting no run, Maxwell Lewis. I mean, like you don't really have this wealth of depth on the Lakers that you can rely on, which maybe that's a reason why you go LaVine, because you already don't have the bench depth, and so you're able to get you're able to get more offense out of it. But I don't know, like that would be a weird deal for the Lakers if I'm me. But shoot, the Lakers keep throwing all these trash deals at the Bulls, so throw one back.
Listen, I mean, start high, right? Go to the table and be like, hey, we want AD. Because it sounds a lot different when you're like, all right, bet we'll come down to Austin Reeves and Roy Hachimura. There you go.
Is LeBron James on the table?
And I mean, do you think at all with the Lakers and where they currently sit at, 11-8 on the season, so not terrible. Do you think that makes them more inclined to try to add a talent to the level of Zach LaVine to try to? Because they were very active in the trade deadline last year.
I think they always want to add a talent like Zach LaVine.
Now, we got to talk about this before we go as well. So also, it was said that the Lakers, while, we hear now with the Bulls wanting the LaVine trade, that the Lakers are technically more interested in DeMar and Alex Caruso than LaVine technically. Now, the thing that makes it interesting about that is that Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves' contract would basically match that perfectly in that case. But again, you're sending out two 25-year-old players for an older player, 34-year-old DeMar DeRozan, and what's AC, 28, 27 now? I can't remember what AC is.
AC 29, but I'm terrible at ages.
Yeah. So
I don't be knowing how old nobody is.
To me, that makes sense for them as well. I'm not going to say it makes more or less.
Great. I was so 29. Boy, he looked 36.
Hey, listen, that's crazy. That's crazy. So it's like it. I mean, it makes sense to hear that they're kind of more interested in those two players. Like I said, shorter term deals. You're not adding any long term money to that. DeMar, they can get a half a season of looking at DeMar before they decide what they want to do. You have another season of a partially guaranteed, but even then, really fairly priced deal on Alex Caruso. So that makes sense there as well.
Would you be mad at a 2-for-2 in that case? Sending out Caruso and DeMar for Reeves and Rui.
No, because to me, you
trading Reeves for Caruso is hilarious. By
that
way.
is
that would be crazy. Hilarious.
But I wouldn't be mad at it only because you're getting younger, you're getting more modern in a sense, and at that point, then I got to ask, because we already know now that that trade wouldn't possibly come until a Zach LaVine trade. So what the heck did you get back in a Zach LaVine trade? And don't overlook the possibility of it being a 3-team trade as well.
Yeah.
So
that's so tough.
Yeah.
It's the tough part is it's a loss. Like you're not winning that trade. You're sending out two players that are, AC's a better defender than Reeves is. Maybe Reeves is a better scorer, but not marginally.
Yeah.
And then you get Rui back, who's 11 points a game. Like that's the deals where it's like, all right, let me get Hood Shafino on a first round pick if I'm sending this out as well. But maybe that's me being greedy as a Bulls fan. I don't know. It felt a lot better when it was just for Zach LaVine with Shafino and the pick involved versus giving up DeMar and AC. Because to me, my thing is, what are the value on each players by themselves?
Well,
I think that you could get one of these guys by themselves, and I think DeMar is worth more than both of these guys.
Well, like the value is dependent upon each one of those teams, but you still have to match salary, right? So it's not just salaries, about the value on the court, but I also think like it's value for the Chicago Bulls too, because you're getting two players on really reasonable price deals, and you get control over that for a while. And because we know that the Bulls aren't going to be a free agent destination anytime soon, maybe look at that as like an extended. That's starting your free agency basically.
Yeah, I guess so. We'll see what it ends up being. I'd love to have Rui here, but I'm not like, I feel like people are like head over heels for Rui because of the playoffs last year.
Rui is solid. Don't get me wrong.
He's solid.
Like, he's not
even a great rebounder.
Yeah, he's and again, I know you mentioned him as a power forward. I mean, ideally, yeah, he can play power forward, but I think he gets some advantage when he's able to play the three. He doesn't play a lot of power forward there because they have Jared Vanderbilt who's killing it. Which, listen, if you can get Jared Vanderbilt in one of these deals, I'm all for that as well. But
listen, it's basically a done deal. He's 6'8" with a 7'2" wingspan. Like, that's an AK guy.
Oh yeah, well,
it's right. You know, he's gonna form the Captain Kearney circle. Hey,
I love that that's been a recurring joke for us for a year and a half.
Started the show.
Yeah,
since we pretty much started the show. Hey man, appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer. Bulls play the Bucks tonight.
About to get murdered. You guys can follow me at CEO Haize. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls, man. Make sure you guys you can check us out on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube and the Odyssey app. Yeah, my brain, bro, like had a brain fart there. But hey, for Pat the Designer, I'm Haize. This has been Locked On Bulls, man. We out here. Peace, y'all.
Peace. Bro, that man Mark Jones said, busted, disgusted, and not to be trusted. That's crazy. That's a wild statement, bro.